Liu Ruan promised to marry another woman, and I decided to hide my own plan from her and leave exactly as she wanted. I'd no longer contact him. I'd stop interfering with her family's life. But on the wedding day, Liu Ruan ran away from her own ceremony and rushed to the airport. I only frowned, feeling a faint, unpleasant surprise as I looked at him. Wasn't this the result she had been working toward himself? What are you crying about now, teacher, I thought, while I was already completely ready to go and study in Germany. Professor Ruan's voice had rung out joyfully on the phone. Excellent, Tingchuan. Fill out the application and send it to me, he said. It takes about a month to release the list of students going abroad. Use that time to apply for a visa and settle your plans. Once you have gone to Germany and sorted out your affairs, you probably will not be able to come back quickly. Take this chance to say a proper goodbye to your friends and family. I nodded, hung up, walked from the living room back to the bedroom, and glanced at the old photograph on the computer desk. It was raining hard in that picture. 23-year-old Liu Ruan was playing with an umbrella, his whole face beaming as he looked at me. I was 13, standing in the sun with a stray cat in my arms. The heat was baking my skin. I was sweating. The cat was dozing peacefully against my chest, but under that umbrella, even after so many years, I felt a strange chill. I still remember the day she agreed to take the kitten in, and how happy I was. It's just a shame that Liu Ruan and I can never bring the past back. Those thoughts made me sad, because when I was 13, our family was in a terrible high-speed car accident. My parents died instantly. I survived because my mother was holding me close. I was incredibly lucky to be alive, and afterward Liu Ruan took me into her family. He had grown up in the Liu household, where at first no one approved of that decision, but she insisted, determined not to give up his dream of becoming a teacher. Come home and take care of the company's legacy, they told him. Does he even care about me? I used to wonder. He always took me with him, trying to make my life easier after my parents' death. The accident left me with post-traumatic stress, and she personally supervised my studies. No matter the weather outside, she always interesting things and bought them for me. Day by day, I grew up beside him, and thanks to his endless patience, I began to see him differently. When I turned 18, Liu Ruan threw me a grand birthday party. That evening she drank too much, and I walked her to her room to rest, noticing how warmly she smiled at me. Unable to hold back, I followed him and took a bold step. The next second she froze in shock. She pushed me away sharply and everything fell apart. I did not understand the reason for such a violent reaction. I thought it was the perfect moment to say what I felt, but Liu Ruan was clearly horrified. She opened his mouth and his voice broke into a hoarse whisper. Qiao Tingchuan, do you understand that I'm your teacher? You were my school teacher, and I've already graduated. We are no longer connected by studies, I argued, stubborn as a boy. How can you love me? You're only 18. You're confusing simple attachment for real feelings, she said, looking at me with dark, reddened eyes. I shook my head and answered, I simply love you. You think I'm too young, then why do you push me away so hard? Then I'll prove to you that I've grown up and that I know exactly what I feel. I do not remember every detail of that long argument now. Since then, on every birthday of mine, Liu Ruan rejected me again, and I had no intention of giving in. In 20 days, I'd turned 25. This time I was not going to confess, because 6 months ago Liu Ruan announced his engagement and introduced me to the woman she had chosen. How that angered me. Still holding back the tears rising in my eyes, I asked her directly, Are you trying to make me jealous with a fiancé? Are you trying to make me back off? Liu Ruan looked at me coldly. Don't be so presumptuous. I'm not young anymore. It's time for me to get married. Then she turned away from me and took her fiancé's hand, his face frighteningly calm, and I cried the whole night. My head was in chaos, and every memory of the years we had spent together came flooding back. With the first light of dawn, Professor Ruan started the conversation again. Tingchuan, are you sure you do not want to go to Germany for the internship? Your talent does not belong inside the borders of one country. I advise you to change your environment and see the world. What do you think? She insisted, but I only shook my head. I cannot give up everything. I do not want to leave home. The professor sighed heavily at my silence. Tingchuan, you are a gifted young man, and it pains me to watch you waste your potential. Listen to an elder. You need to study while you are young, he urged. I looked down at the floor. Thank you, Professor. I need to think a little more. In truth, I desperately did not want to leave Liu Ruan. I still hoped to turn the situation around. But halfway through the year, she began acting provocatively, constantly appearing in front of me arm in arm with her fiancé Si Chen, openly showing affection. Last night, she even brought Ji Chen home right in front of me. He took him upstairs to her room, and I sat in tears until 2 in the morning. Noticing the light in her window and hearing sounds through the wall, I covered my mouth with my hand to keep from screaming while tears dripped onto the floor. At that very moment, I finally decided to give in. I had stopped loving Li Ruan and was no longer clinging to the idea of staying in China. Then the silence broke with footsteps outside the door. Looking up, I accidentally caught Li Ruan's eye. She had found me sitting alone in the dark living room. She glanced automatically at her phone screen. It was already midnight. She frowned without saying a word and climbed the stairs silently, not even greeting me. Between us stood an icy wall of strangers. Long ago, after my parents' accident in the rain, I developed a terrible fear of thunderstorms, and Li Ruan always tried to be nearby on those days. Even when he went on business trips, he hurried home to put me to bed, knowing perfectly well that I could not sleep without him, and yet now he coldly brought another woman into the house. It hurt me endlessly, but out of habit I still called him teacher. Li Ruan did not even turn around, throwing an icy line over his shoulder. "I'm having dinner with Ji Chen. Don't wait for me." Hearing the door slam, I felt a sharp shortness of breath and a lump in my throat. He had never spoken to me in that tone before. She used to treasure every minute with me, canceling work meetings for dinner together, always rushing home, afraid I'd go hungry. For a decade it had seemed like nothing would ever change, but everything collapsed the day I first confessed. She began deliberately distancing himself, staying late at work, avoiding personal conversations, no longer bringing surprises. And after Ji Chen arrived, her gaze on me turned completely icy. I understood it perfectly, and I could do nothing about it. I silently picked up my chopsticks and tried to swallow the cold, overly spicy food, which left only bitter emptiness in my mouth. After a couple of forced bites, I gathered my things and knocked softly on his door, but Li Ruan did not even open it, coldly locking it from the inside so I'd not bother him. I clenched my fist and said, "Teacher, I'd like to change rooms." Surprise flashed briefly in Li Ruan's eyes, but then he said indifferently, "Really, do as you please." I nodded silently, turned, and went back to my bedroom. The huge window on the landing, the elegant furniture, the dressing room filled with design books, all of it suddenly felt alien. That room was the master bedroom of the whole villa, with the best light. Long ago, when I first moved into Li Ruan's house, she gave it to me himself, ruffling my hair and saying, "Enough huddling in small rooms, it is time to live in normal conditions." Now I was moving out voluntarily. Ji Chen could move in at any moment, and I was only a hanger-on in someone else's house. Besides, changing rooms was part of preparing for my departure. By midday the next day, I had moved all my things to the very end of the hallway, into the former storage room. Having tidied up, I retrieved the documents from the professor, ready to sign them. As I passed the living room, I gave a tense smile and a curt greeting to Li Ruan, who was clearly not used to such distance from me. She gave me a piercing look, but said nothing. I felt I had changed too much lately because she could not resist snapping at me. "It's pouring outside. Where are you going? I'll give you a ride." I was no longer used to such concern from him, especially since it was the 7th and he was supposed to be on a date. "I heard from the elders that you are planning to transfer a large sum to Ji Chen's account. Aren't you busy with him today?" I said quietly. Li Ruan froze for a moment, distracted. "No. I was going to give it to you." She did not have time to finish before the doorbell rang. When the door opened, Ji Chen appeared on the threshold, his hair disheveled by the rain, water running down his sharp jawline. She immediately hugged Li Ruan familiarly around the waist and cooed, "Ruan, the weather today is terrible." I looked at them with a strange calm, feeling as if everything inside me had finally broken apart. Apparently I truly had fallen out of love with him and was ready to simply dissolve into silence. This time I did not feel the same pain as before. Politely and distantly, I prepared to leave the hall. Li Ruan did not stop me, but at the last moment he said to Ji Chen, "We were just about to go for a walk. Would you like to come with us?" I declined at once. "Thank you, teacher. It's better if the two of you go together." Calling him teacher, I thanked him with complete sincerity. Being a reserved person, I preferred to spend my time in my study room, but on that rainy day I had to go outside with them, watching Ji Chen's every move. "Tingxuan, do you have a girlfriend in mind? What have you been up to lately?" Ji Chen suddenly asked. I stayed silent, unsure how to gently tell them about my coming departure, so I made do with vague phrases about being away for a long time. Ji Chen did not press. She immediately turned to Li Ruan, whose face softened at the sight of her. Li Ruan even pulled out the lipstick I had once given him, trying to make amends for past wrongs, and Ji Chen gently touched her cheek. Just as they were about to kiss, I simply closed my eyes. On the way, Ji Chen suddenly had urgent business and needed to stop at home. Without a second of hesitation, Li Ruan ordered the car to stop and let me out in the pouring rain. I was not surprised. I only smiled slightly at my own thoughts. The cabin was completely silent and the black car rolled smoothly on, leaving me behind under the torrent of water. I walked 3 kilometers to the nearest metro station, reached a place free from wind and rain, and headed to the train station. Returning home to pick up the rest of my things, I bumped into an old classmate who noticed the papers in my hands and asked in surprise where I was headed. "You want to emigrate?" "Well, Teacher Liu would probably agree," he said. I thought for a moment, wondering why he had suddenly remembered Li Ruan, and then nodded. "I guess so. Going abroad would be good for me, and studying there would be much better." "He was so worried about you," my classmate continued. "Remember when you took first place in the exam and were unfairly accused of copying? Teacher Liu not only found the evidence, he also forced the accusers to publicly apologize. And remember when you fell during the competition and hurt yourself? He canceled his seminar immediately and rushed to the hospital. Or when you were hit by a car while helping an old lady cross the street, he hired the best lawyers to defend you." Listening to those stories, my mind went back to those days. I admitted to myself that Teacher Liu had truly poured her heart into me. I nodded quietly. Yes, Li Ruan had always treated me incredibly well. That's precisely why I have to leave, to stop being a burden, and to repay him for all these years. I want to leave him only the best, and to tell him I'm going so he will not worry about me anymore. I reasoned silently, promising myself to stop clinging to him and ruining his life. Returning home, I changed into dry clothes, opened the calculator on my phone, and started counting. I lived in Li Ruan's house for 12 years, and that time I spent a considerable amount on my needs. Taking all the hidden expenses into account, I calculated. I think we are talking about 10 million, plus a few other expenses. I'll solve this problem by repaying him twice what I spent, and let it be my parting wedding gift. After collecting all the mementos Li Ruan had given me over the years, I put them up for sale at a second-hand luxury store, and I also contacted a realtor about selling the old house next door. At that moment, my phone froze with an incoming message and photos from Shi Chen. "Tingchuan, your teacher, and I are flying to Manchester for the football match. Stay home alone, be obedient, and save electricity," the caption read. I knew perfectly well that those photos were sent only to demonstrate their love again. Before, such photos would give me a headache and bring tears to my eyes, but now I was determined to see Li Ruan only as a senior mentor. I'll not let Shi Chen manipulate my emotions or ruin my mood anymore, I thought coldly, ignoring the provocation. Exactly a week later, Li Ruan returned from the trip with Shi Chen. As soon as they stepped through the door, my gaze fell on the sparkling diamond watch on Shi Chen's wrist. I glanced at them with indifference, not even trying to guess whether the watch was a gift from Li Ruan. In his presence, Shi Chen demonstratively pretended to be extremely friendly toward me. "Tingxuan must be really bored here all alone for a whole week. I brought so much back. Would you like to see?" Shi Chen said with a fake smile, gently nudging me forward. I silently shook my head in refusal, and he gave a strange chuckle. "Why are you being so formal? Just accept this as a souvenir from your teacher." "All right, I understand, teacher," I replied quietly. But then I accidentally glanced away and froze, noticing a fresh fragment of a skull tattoo under Li Ruan's collar. One of the provocative photos Shi Chen had sent me earlier flashed through my mind, and the puzzle finally came together in my head. Seeing those traces with my own eyes, I was stunned and speechless, while Shi Chen chattered about Miss Yu's upcoming banquet, where they definitely wanted to bring me to. "We are almost the same age, so it is good for him to get out and socialize," Shi Chen coaxed. I knew that grand reception well. Ever since I had been orphaned and ended up in Li Ruan's house, he had never brought me to such events, afraid of gossip about my status as a stray. However, this time, after a brief hesitation, Li Ruan nodded. "Why should the boy be bored alone? I can keep him company," Shi Chen coaxed, smiling softly, wrapping his arms around Li Ruan's waist. Li Ruan merely chuckled and eventually gave in to his pressure. Seeing how easily those two found common ground, I lowered my gaze and forced a weak smile. In Li Ruan's world, Shi Chen truly occupied a very special place, one for which he was willing to trample every principle he used to have. Well, if the teacher was happy, then it would be even easier for me to disappear from their lives. The party atmosphere was oppressive with bright lights and noise. I stood silently in a secluded corner, sipping a glass of cola, while Shi Chen accepted congratulations and toasts. At that moment, a girl accidentally bumped to me and spilled her drink. "Oh, sorry, I'm clumsy." "It's all right. I'll go to the restroom and freshen up," I replied politely. Before leaving, I instinctively placed my phone on the table next to Li Ruan, and when I returned, I found him holding my device. "You just got a call from a realtor," he said in a strange voice. I told him you were busy, but he promised to call back. Hearing the word realtor took my breath away. Luckily, I managed to avoid panic, and I tried to stay as composed as possible, but Liu Ruan was already peering intently into my face. Why is a realtor calling you about real estate? Just thinking about getting rid of an old inheritance. Since I do not live there anyway, I threw out a half-truth, noticing how Liu Ruan's expression darkened as he fell silent. I took my phone back and was about to return to my corner when suddenly, right next to Ji Chen and me, a massive glass table shattered with a deafening sound. Careful, Liu Ruan reacted faster than anyone, instinctively yanking Ji Chen toward him and holding him against his chest in the safe zone. The shards flew in every direction, and I lost my balance and fell straight onto the glass-strewn floor, instantly feeling a sharp pain as my light-colored suit quickly turned crimson. Ji Chen was not hurt, but he was frightened to death. And even though I was lying on the floor and bleeding, the confused Liu Ruan, after a moment of hesitation, made his choice. After instructing a waiter to take care of me, he rushed to calm the trembling Ji Chen. After spending the entire night in the hospital, I did not return home until 3 in the morning, completely exhausted, and Liu Ruan still had not shown up. I turned off the light and lay down on the bed, but the searing pain throughout my body kept me awake until dawn. Just as I was drifting into a light sleep, the door quietly opened and Liu Ruan walked into the room, carrying a heavy trail of alcohol. I woke abruptly at his touch and desperately tried to understand what was happening, feeling his hot lips and hoarse whisper burning my face. Hearing that name, I froze with horror. He was so drunk that in the darkness he mistook me for his fiancé. Meanwhile, his hands kept sliding over me, and I shrank from tension. I tried to push him away, whispering through tears, "Teacher, come to your senses, I'm Tingchuan." But my weak resistance only provoked him, turning the kisses into something cruel and suffocating. Pain in my fresh wounds mixed with mental anguish, and I could no longer hold back my sobs, begging him to stop. But Liu Ruan's drunken mind was deaf to my pleas. Finally, his body grew heavy and he collapsed beside me, completely spent, and fell asleep. Barely catching my breath and afraid to move, I freed myself from his arms with difficulty, threw on my clothes, and ran out into the living room. In the morning, as soon as I saw the pale Liu Ruan coming out of my bedroom, I curled into the corner of the sofa in fear. But he looked at me coldly and muttered through his teeth, "Why the hell did I end up in your room? I want that to be the last time. I'm getting married, and it would be better if you stopped getting under my feet, otherwise I'll move out myself," he said with the air of a man who had decided someone else's fate. I smiled bitterly to myself. In her eyes, I was nothing more than an obsessive boy, and any excuse was meaningless. I silently lowered my head, and then I noticed our shadows on the floor. His hand slowly rose and hovered right above the top of my head, as if he wanted to ruffle my hair like in the good old days. For a moment it seemed to me that the tenderness of our past had returned. But the next second Liu Ruan abruptly lowered his hand, silently took a glass of water from the table, and left the room, leaving me alone with empty illusions. Meanwhile, the realtor informed me that the sale of the old house had brought in about 50 million, but due to complications with the paperwork, only part of the funds would be deposited into my account. Together with the sale of the designer items, the total came to about 20 million, enough for my first period abroad. At the same time, I decided to sell my old design works, and I applied for a prestigious jewelry art competition with a prize fund of 3 million, into which Ji Chen unexpectedly dragged himself as well. Liu Ruan did everything he could to help Ji Chen win that competition, using all his connections and attracting the best masters from around the world, but I no longer cared about his favoritism. Let him enjoy his victories, because soon I'll receive the prize money, take my documents, and disappear from his life forever, I thought, finally burning away every remnant of my old feelings. However, on the eve of the results announcement, a huge scandal erupted. Accusations of copying surfaced online, and my work and Ji Chen's turned out to be absolutely identical, down to the smallest details of the composition. A storm immediately arose in the comments. My loyal followers and former classmates fiercely defended me, arguing that this unique style rightfully belonged to me, and that Ji Chen had brazenly stolen my idea. Having recovered from the shock, I rushed home hoping to find my original paper sketch, the one I drew when I was 20 during a long quarrel with Liu Ruan. I clearly remembered that night when I quietly slipped onto his balcony, looking at his sleeping face and leaving sketches in the margins of my notebook, drawing inspiration from my forbidden feelings. Now that sketch had become my ticket to freedom, but after searching through every hiding place in the room, I discovered with horror that the folder with the drafts had vanished without a trace. At that moment, the phone in my pocket buzzed with a link from a classmate. "Turn on the press conference broadcast immediately." Ji Chen's triumphant face appeared on the screen. With a heavy feeling in my chest, I stared at the screen where Ji Chen, with a serious expression, officially declared in front of a crowd of reporters that he was the author of the disputed design. Showing the public his sketches, he spoke with false nobility about how he held no ill will toward the young aspiring designer who had decided to profit at his expense for the sake of cheap fame. Public opinion immediately turned completely, flooding my accounts with curses. At the same time, a new scandalous video from the joint press conference between Zichen and Liu Ruan went viral in the news feeds. In the video, a beaming Liu Ruan openly embraced his fiancée in front of the cameras, confirming their coming wedding, while the couple's fans gushed with delight in the comments. Isn't this copycat Liu Ruan's former student? How low of him. The headlines blared, and I, feeling like the hero of a surreal nightmare, despairingly read the tons of dirt poured on me and on my family. When the commenters got to insulting my dead parents and my lack of noble birth, my fingers began to tremble and hot, salty tears flooded the phone. With shaking hands, I dialed Liu Ruan's number. The first ring went into the void, then the second, then two more, and I called again and again, reaching almost 100 calls, until finally I heard familiar breathing on the other end. A memory of a school episode flashed through my mind, when he just as silently protected me from bullying with the words, "Do not be afraid, I'm here." But now, choking with pain, I only forced out a hoarse question. "Tell me, was it you who gave him my moon sketch?" Liu Ruan did not hesitate for a second. "I'll speak honestly. It was me." And the tears began to flow. "Grit your teeth and ask yourself why you are doing this," Liu Ruan said after a few seconds of silence. "That design was not meant for prying eyes." "I should not have said your name out loud. Did you not understand?" I was still afraid of being noticed, still afraid of holding a grudge against him. I chuckled softly, closing my tear-clouded eyes, but it was not me who copied it. It was Zichen. "You gave him the draft. Now I'll never wash off the label. I've completely ruined my career." "Listen, Zichen is just confused. He did not mean any harm. He tried to justify him." "What would you do in my place if your student's thesis was accused of copying? I suggested you take up design myself, but only so you would have a hobby to take your mind off things. Every time you sit down to sketch, you cannot sleep at night. Give up this craft. Don't be a designer. I'll support you for the rest of your days." "You will never have to worry about money again," he said, and immediately hung up. I froze, phone in hand, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were red from tears, and at that moment I no longer recognized myself. Could that really be me? I did not really know Liu Ruan, the man who was terrified that the entire world had turned its back on me. But had he betrayed me, teacher Liu, who was my entire universe? I could not find the answer. Exactly 1 week remained before my departure abroad. My schoolmates had long since gone their separate ways, and I had to pack my things and leave. After some thought, I finally decided to join that farewell gathering at the club. Due to heavy traffic, I was running very late, and in my hurry, I chose the wrong room. As fate would have it, a group of old acquaintances were noisily playing a game in that room. Liu Ruan lost the first round. "Read your punishment out loud," someone said. "Choose someone in the room and kiss them for a minute," echoed through the room, shocking everyone. I watched from the sidelines in disgust. Liu Ruan stood with his back straight while I tried to slip out of the booth unnoticed, past people frozen in amazement. A sudden flash of light blinded those present, who had not yet fully understood what was happening, and Liu Ruan was already quickly stuffing a phone into his pocket. The recording was done. The footage would spread throughout the city. For a second my heart sank, but strangely, the pain no longer seemed as unbearable as before. Perhaps it was because I had truly let go, and now nothing could hurt me. I calmly pulled out my phone, turned on the camera, and hit record. Despite the dim lighting, the lens captured everything clearly. Liu Ruan, meanwhile, turned back to the screen. Zichen hugged him, lifting him slightly off the floor. The timer ticked away inexorably. 60, 59. The video was long, but the surprises did not end there. Immediately after the kiss, Zichen dropped to one knee and pulled a box with a diamond ring from his pocket. "Ruan, will you marry me?" came the soft question. What did Zichen say? I could not hear it over the rising noise. The crowd completely blocked the two of them, and frantic screams and shouts echoed from all four corners of the room. Lowering my hand, I pressed the stop button. I handed my phone to the waiter who approached, turned around, left the booth, and did not linger for a moment. After dinner with my former classmates, I trudged home, completely exhausted. Liu Ruan had gotten there before me, and was already sitting on the sofa in the living room. Noticing my return, he called out to me at the entrance. "Why do you always go to places like that? Are you following me?" "I just came in for a drink with friends," I replied quietly. "You got the wrong booth. Ours was right next door." Liu Ruan's angry eyebrows relaxed slightly, but his voice stayed icy. "Don't go to places like that anymore. I really do not need it." I nodded and silently went upstairs. Several days passed, during which Liu Ruan hardly showed up at home. Zi Chen, however, bombarded me with photos. Here are the wedding rings, and here are the ceremony preparations. All those flowers were supposed to symbolize a happy future for the newlyweds, but I did not even intend to reply to his messages. There was no point anymore. On the last morning before leaving, I bumped into Liu Ruan on the stairs as he was getting ready to leave. Calling him teacher, I quietly asked, "Could you spare me half an hour this evening so we can celebrate my birthday together?" He had raised me for so many years, and I just wanted to say goodbye before leaving. However, for Liu Ruan, the request sounded like yet another provocation. My past confessions and the scenes I had caused on previous birthdays immediately flashed before her eyes. He refused without even thinking. "I've told you 1,000 times that we are student and teacher. Do you want to embarrass me again?" I tried to explain everything at once. "Teacher, this time it will be different. I'll not make a scene like I did a few years ago. I just want to say goodbye properly." An unbridgeable gulf separated us, and I could no longer ask him those crucial questions. Liu Ruan did not even listen to me. After hearing the usual excuses, he simply nodded and left. I waited for him on the threshold from early evening until late at night, but he never returned. Watching the time on my watch, I dialed his number with trembling fingers. The call rang for about 10 seconds before Zi Chen's voice rang out. "Hello, Ruan was very tired last night and is still asleep, so he is too tired to answer." There was a distinct hint of ambiguity in his voice that sent a chill of panic through me. I practically pleaded into the phone. "Can you wake him up? Just tell him I'm waiting." A condescending chuckle answered. "Tingxuan, why are you making this circus? We are in a hotel. You're a grown man now, and you know perfectly well what we did before bed. You want to become a public figure. Isn't the shame enough for you? He's your teacher. Do you not understand that this is unacceptable? He's getting married and you still will not leave, and you keep pestering him every day. Do you have no conscience or shame at all?" Those words pierced my heart like a sharp needle. I bit my lip until it bled, my throat dry. A message appeared on my phone screen showing the call had ended. I lowered my hand and stood frozen in silence. It took a long time before I took the birthday candle out of the box. The ice cream had completely melted by then. The plastic fork bent crookedly in my hand. Lighting the tiny candle, I silently made my final wish for my 25th birthday. To no longer entertain illusions about an eternity with my teacher, but to wish him health, peace, and happiness. Blowing out the flame, I finally began my last preparations. In that house where I lived for 12 whole years, I left 3 things. A bank card with 20 million in the account as a token of gratitude for all the upbringing and support. A wedding gift for him and the woman she had chosen. And a farewell letter. "Teacher, congratulations on your wedding," I said, brushing the tears from my face as I finished. Taking a final look at the empty rooms, I turned and left without looking back. Exactly 12 hours later, my plane landed at Munich International Airport. Meanwhile, Liu Ruan was holding a meeting when the office door swung open, revealing Zi Chen sprawled on the sofa. Rubbing the bridge of his nose, he asked casually, "What are you doing here?" His guest's expression filled with concern. "I heard there was an emergency yesterday and you did not sleep a wink all night, so I decided to drop by," Zi Chen explained. Liu Ruan merely nodded and put her phone away. Zi Chen, startled, grabbed his arm. "The wedding is tomorrow. Rest today and go home." A hint of irritation flashed in Liu Ruan's eyes, and his voice went cold. "We agreed to keep all of this a secret. After all, it is just a formality. Do you not remember the terms of the contract?" "Take your hands off me." Zi Chen recoiled in fear, noticing the change in the man's expression. "Sorry, Ruan. I mean, Ms. Liu. I understand." With a gloomy expression, Liu Ruan walked out of the building and got into the car, ordering the driver to go home. It was already 9 in the evening. It was probably too late to arrange a meeting with Qiao Tingxuan, and Qiao Tingxuan was probably sulking again. After a few seconds of hesitation, Liu Ruan finally dialed his number, but all he got was a continuous ringing. The subscriber was out of range. Liu Ruan's brow furrowed. After sending a message and waiting for no reply, he turned to the housekeeper. "Where is the young master? Tell him to answer the phone." "But he left an hour ago," she replied, alarmed. Had he really decided to run? On the eve of the wedding, Qiao Tingxuan was still dreaming about trips. Or perhaps he was planning another protest. He was probably just throwing another tantrum and running away from home, Liu Ruan thought, remembering all of Tingxuan's antics over the past few years. It was easy to believe. Liu Ruan was completely enraged. He immediately called Secretary Zhu and ordered her to track the location of Qiao Tingxuan's phone. The screenshot she sent clearly showed the airport building among the other markers. Liu Ruan's face turned black with anger, and he slammed his fist into the paneling. Get to the airport now, he ordered the driver. This boy was completely out of control, even thinking of blackmailing him with an escape. Arriving at the airport, Li Ruan found a group of security officers waiting at the entrance, led by Secretary Zhu. Scanning the crowd, he could not find the person he was looking for. Where is he? I do not see him, Li Ruan hissed. The secretary quickly reported that she had already contacted the airline to verify the passenger lists for the flight that had taken off about 3 hours earlier. This will take time. Don't attract unnecessary attention. But the man was already on the verge of a breakdown. At that moment, the villa's phone rang. A worried maid reported that something was wrong with the young gentleman's belongings and that he had better return immediately. The barely perceptible fear in the housekeeper's voice made the blood rush to Li Ruan's head. Everything inside him froze. Noticing her boss's state, the secretary immediately opened the car door for him. Drive home quickly, Li Ruan snapped at the driver, keeping an icy silence the entire way. His lips were pressed into a thin line, and the secretary beside him was afraid to breathe. No one knew better than they did what Qiao Tingchuan meant to Ms. Liu. The moment the boy escaped, the boss would lose his mind. And if something bad happened to him, Li Ruan would be ready to bury the whole world alive. As soon as the car entered the villa grounds, the phone vibrated again. Shi Chen was on the line. Ruan, I'm already at the venue. Can you come to me? Why are you not answering? He screamed into the phone. After hanging up, Li Ruan stormed into the house. The birthday cake with 25 lit candles still sat on the living room table, and a gift box with a bow lay next to it. On the lid of the box rested the very same bank card Li Ruan had once given to Tingchuan. On top of it lay a card with a touching birthday greeting, signed with the familiar name. Reading those lines, Li Ruan laughed a broken laugh, feeling everything inside him sink. His gaze fell on the neatly wrapped wedding gift, and the madness in his reddened eyes reached its peak. With one movement, he swept the box off the table. The souvenir shattered against the glass partition, leaving a crack in the decorative wall. Have you all gone blind? Find him for me immediately, he roared, sending the terrified servants scattering. Feeling her strength drain away, Li Ruan fell to his knees, covering her face with her hands. Her secretary immediately rushed over, reporting the latest news. Tingchuan's phone was silent. Apparently he really was on board the plane. Having demanded a full passenger list from the airline, Li Ruan froze when the maid called again. It turned out that all the young gentleman's personal belongings had disappeared from her room. Jumping to his feet, he ran up the stairs and flung open the closet in Tingchuan's bedroom. The safe and the shelves were completely empty. The emptiness of the room echoed in his heart with a terrible, unfamiliar panic. Heading to the master bedroom, he found it in the same perfect order. Losing control, Li Ruan turned on the trembling maid. Where did he put everything? He ran away from home, but he could not have taken absolutely everything. The woman sobbed in her defense. According to her, the young gentleman had recently been getting rid of old things frequently, claiming he was tired of them and had only taken large bags with him under the pretext of going for walks. Recalling the events of the past days, Li Ruan slammed his fist against the wall. Immediately send his photos to every branch and airport in the country. Make sure everyone searches every corner, he ordered. A long day passed before the first news broke. His subordinates checked over 200 airports across the country and found no trace of the young man. Li Ruan's face twisted. Meanwhile, the housekeeper brought another shocking revelation. It turned out that the young gentleman had sold all his valuables at a high-end thrift store the day before. Moreover, even the houses registered in his name had been sold, a total of over 20 million. Why did he need such a sum? Suddenly, Li Ruan's gaze fell on the bank card left on the table. A terrible realization flashed through his mind. Grabbing the card, he tossed it to his secretary. Check the balance now. The answer came instantly. The card contained exactly the same 20 million, the proceeds from the sale of the property, but the account was completely blocked, and the terminal screen showed only a blank notice about the account being cancelled. The young man had carried out his plan to the end. The secretary hastily handed over the phone with the verification results. The card did indeed have exactly 20 million, but all transactions on the account had been permanently blocked by the owner himself. Li Ruan's face instantly paled, and the screen before her eyes seemed to take on a mournful black and white veil. The realization hit harder than any physical blow. The boy had not just run away. He had methodically and coldly burned every bridge, leaving him only empty walls and a bitter reminder of his own arrogance. I made my choice, cutting off the past once and for all. And now, in this vast world, nothing connected me with my past teacher anymore, leaving him alone among the fragments of a broken, illusory happiness. Germany. If my memory served me correctly, that was it. I had no family or friends in Germany. On that rainy day, As I picked up the necessary documents and flew away, I was overcome with panic. But Liu Ruan, it seemed, had already guessed my true intentions. All night I was tormented by anxiety, despair, and a dull ache, but by morning it had all turned into pure rage. Grabbing my bank card, I resolutely headed for the exit. My secretary, trotting behind me, tried to stop me in fear. "Ms. Liu, where are you headed now?" Gritting my teeth, I blurted out one word. The secretary's team had already booked a ticket for the 11 o'clock flight. Never before had I been on the verge of such a nervous breakdown. My head was in utter chaos, my thoughts in disarray. Memories flashed in vivid bursts. 13-year-old Qiao Tingxuan, with whom we had been so happy. 16-year-old Qiao Tingxuan confidently leading the school. 17-year-old Qiao Tingxuan smiling through tears as he mourned the death of his beloved cat. At 18, when I told Qiao Tingxuan he was wrong, and he panicked. At 20, when he suddenly fell silent, and that silence tore my heart apart. Now, when 25-year-old Qiao Tingxuan had simply decided to leave, I was consumed by anger and despair at the thought of being abandoned. I understood perfectly well the reasons for his escape, but I could not accept them. The thought of him disappearing into some distant land, never to be seen again, seemed unbearable. After all, only last night my heart had been cherishing a naive dream of a sham marriage, a foolish fantasy that was supposed to somehow keep him close. I naively believed I could regain control of our relationship and that we would never be separated. I greatly overestimated the future, completely forgetting that one cannot control another person's will. Qiao Tingxuan's character turned out to be much stronger than most people's, and no matter how much I resisted, he still went through with it. Moreover, as a man with a difficult childhood, he always had a strong need for security. Upon learning of the coming wedding, he felt betrayed and ran away without a word. From the outside, it seemed that I was the dominant and controlling one in our relationship, but only I knew how helpless and passive I truly was. I felt stuck in a vicious cycle. Now eagerly awaiting his confession, now pushing him away in disgust, now desperately seeking closeness, now deliberately distancing myself. And then, when I finally won his heart and he voluntarily let me go, I became truly terrified, and everything inside me collapsed. Achieving my desired goal proved incredibly difficult. Only now did I finally see Qiao Tingxuan's true feelings. His love and his simultaneous contempt for me were so intense, so passionate, so immense that I simply did not dare to face them. That flame seemed too hot to touch, too vast to imagine. That's why I pretended to be drunk. Trying to steady him and hide my own true feelings, I gradually pushed Qiao Tingxuan to the breaking point. Driven by fear of public condemnation and gossip, going from a caring mentor to someone he began to avoid, I was ready to take it all back. At that moment, my secretary retrieved Qiao Tingxuan's phone from a trash bin he had discarded it in at the airport. My face instantly darkened. No one knew this boy's character better than me. If Qiao Tingxuan said he would completely renounce his past, he would definitely do it. There was no chance of return, not for me and not for anyone else. The bustle of a huge airport reigned all around us. People rushing somewhere, saying goodbye, waving. I stood there completely alone in the middle of that crowd, unsure where to go. Should I turn back? But I was deathly afraid to go to Qiao Tingxuan and hear his final decision. Should I leave or stay? Should I see him or avoid him? That agonizing choice paralyzed me. The secretary, not understanding my train of thought, simply picked up the phone she had found and dialed a number at random. "Hello, Professor Ruan. We are close to Mr. Qiao and would like to ask you a few questions about him." Having received my consent, the secretary immediately handed me the phone. I stared at the screen for a long time, not daring to move, until I finally sighed and picked up the call. After a long conversation with the professor, my heart felt a little lighter. Having sorted out the storm of emotions within me, I turned around and left the airport, having been there for almost 30 hours. The professor explained that Qiao Tingxuan was now 25 and everyone has their own path. His studying abroad was a conscious personal choice. It seemed he had indeed abandoned me, but I never intended to let him go. In the past, now, and in the future, I wanted to keep him close. My only regret in life was that I'd been born 10 years earlier. If I had not been his teacher in those years, if I had not been frightened by how early it all came, and had not hidden behind the shield of morality, then at the very beginning of his confession I'd not have pushed him away so roughly, even though every word of his echoed with pain. For me, he was at once an unbearable burden, a source of comfort, a measure of confidence, and a refined torture. After the professor's words, I simply had no choice. When the professor shared Qiao Tingxuan's future plans, my heart sank. The boy was planning to study in Germany. The United Kingdom or the United States would have been much better. So why Germany? The professor was surprised by my tone. If Qiao Tingchuan was planning to go abroad, surely he should have let me know. Slowly shaking my head, I smiled bitterly. The boy had not said anything. The professor was even more astonished, but not knowing all the details, he tried to justify it. You were probably too busy preparing for the wedding, so he could not find the right moment. That's nothing, though. The world is a big place these days. Meeting up is not a problem, he added. But for me, choosing Germany meant something completely different. That move proved he had deliberately cut me out of his world. All of the Liu family's main businesses were in China, with some assets in the United States and Britain, but we had nothing in Germany. Europe was not exactly the kind of place where it was easy to arrange things, and I could not force him to return, and he absolutely did not want to go back. My spirits plummeted. Tired of the conversation, the professor was about to hang up, but before he finished, he asked an unexpected question. You came for Tingxuan, right? Why do you not just meet him? After a few seconds of silence, I answered briefly. Just send me his new address. Professor said goodbye politely and sent it. I slept very soundly that night, waking only around noon. There was an unexpected knock on the door. Brother, are you awake? Mom made fried chicken. Come and try it, a voice called from the hallway. I did not answer right away, but when I cracked the door, the girl next door was standing there with a whole frying pan in her hands. Looking at her, I decided to tease the child a little. I deliberately frowned, but the girl's face instantly fell, and I could not help smiling to myself. Taking the treat, I exclaimed with delight, "Wow, what delicious chicken, the best I've ever tasted." The girl's face immediately lit up with a happy smile. Brother, are you busy this afternoon? Will you come for a walk with me?" she asked carelessly. Without much thought, I agreed. So we went for a walk with her dog to a local pond. After walking for a little over half an hour, the girl grew tired and set the dog down on a rock right by the water, afraid he would run off. The path nearby was too narrow, and when I tried to squeeze through carefully, a golden retriever suddenly burst out of the bushes. Startled, I lost my balance and fell into the deep water. I could not swim, so I immediately began to panic and sink. Seeing this, the girl burst into tears and tried to reach me, and her dog was ready to rush to the rescue. At that very moment, a man rushed onto the shore, first dragged the child to safety, and then dove into the water after me. The sound of the water was deafening, the liquid flooding my throat, displacing all the air. Consciousness was gradually fading, and I was already teetering on the edge. Through the haze before my eyes, I dimly made out the silhouette of a man rushing to me, and I instinctively reached out to him. The next moment, they pressed me so tightly, as if they wanted to dissolve me in their embrace, and tears welled up in my eyes. The image before me was blurring, and I could not see my rescuer. But the soothing voice of the girl beside me helped me come to my senses a little. Clearing my throat and trying to get to my feet, I felt myself still in that man's tight embrace. In a voice full of fear, I babbled, "Thank you for saving me, I'm fine. Can you let me go?" The more politely I tried to speak, the more grim Li Ruan became. From his tense tone, I suddenly realized who it was. "Have you been mocking me since childhood?" he said. The sound of that painfully familiar voice sent a jolt through me. Rubbing my wet eyes and finally looking at the man in front of me, I blurted out, "Teacher Liu." Hearing that address from my lips, Li Ruan winced. "I'm no longer your teacher. Stop calling me that." His thin lips and heavy gaze made it clear he was furious. But I still did not understand the reason for his anger. Except for that long-ago rebellion at 18, when he harshly rejected my confession, I had always obeyed him. Afraid of saying too much, I curled up and quietly begged, "Teacher Liu, let me go." As soon as I said that word again, Li Ruan's face turned completely dark. "I told you not to call me that," he muttered through clenched teeth. The little girl blinked in fear, looking back and forth between me and the enraged stranger. Realizing there was no point in arguing, Li Ruan released his grip with a cold expression. "Just say my name." "Li Ruan," he said icily. The little girl immediately repeated after him, then looked at me innocently. "Brother Li Ruan, who is this?" Wiping the water from my hands, I took the girl's hand and gently replied, "This is the one who saved your brother. You can call him Teacher Liu." Li Ruan only smiled bitterly and nodded briefly. His gaze left no room for argument. "Come with me." I silently lowered my head, not moving from my spot. "No, I'll take her and the dog home first," I countered. That quiet refusal made Li Ruan's blood boil. "I just pulled you out of the water. You're soaking wet, and all you can think about is escaping instead of thanking me for saving your life. What did I teach you? Come on, clothes are a small thing. Why are you making life difficult over such trivial things?" I tried to joke. Li Ruan just chuckled. "You think I'm stingy about spending money on new clothes? I'll be missing out on 20 million anyway." His words left me uneasy, as if I were lost in the dark again. Stunned by his sudden anger, I stood there confused, not knowing where to turn. As Liu Ruan continued to scold me, her phone suddenly rang in his pocket. He took it out, glanced at the screen, then immediately hung up. But in the flickering light of the display, I caught a glimpse of the caller's name, Shi Chen. At that moment, I remembered one detail and wanted to check whether the call would repeat, but Liu Ruan simply turned the phone off. His movement was swift and decisive, leaving me completely perplexed. However, a couple of minutes later, my own phone vibrated. An unfamiliar international number appeared on the screen. As soon as I pressed the answer button, I heard a furious, shrill voice. "Qiao Tingxuan, where have you disappeared to this time? Where did you get my number?" I asked. Liu Ruan sat nearby, silently listening to Shi Chen's stream of abuse. His expression instantly changed. Snatching the phone from me, he immediately blacklisted the caller, then dialed his secretary's number. "You gave Shi Chen his number. Who authorized you to make such decisions? Go to Human Resources tomorrow to get your final pay." I was taken aback. "Secretary Zhu has been working with you for 5 years. Why are you lashing out at someone over such a trivial matter?" Oddly enough, my defense of the secretary angered Liu Ruan even more than Shi Chen's call. It seemed my very indifference to the situation infuriated him. "She leaked your personal number to Shi Chen without permission. Did she not deserve to be fired?" Liu Ruan had always protected Shi Chen before, and I was already used to that double standard, so his sudden adherence to principle seemed unnatural. "Forget it," I said quietly, looking at him from under my brows. Liu Ruan stared at me stubbornly. "Why should I forgive this for your secretary? Shi Chen is your fiancé. She only gave him my contact information because otherwise she would have gotten into trouble with him." Hearing this, I could not help smiling bitterly. "It's not Secretary Zhao who is to blame for this, so what does she have to do with it? Is she not innocent? If you are so eager to scold someone, look for Shi Chen." My words seemed to sober Liu Ruan. Handing me the phone back, he asked bluntly, "Do you dislike Shi Chen just because he is my fiancé?" Looking at him calmly, I replied, "No, it is not that I dislike him. We simply cannot stand each other." Hearing this, Liu Ruan felt a glimmer of hope in his chest. Any expression of my emotions regarding Shi Chen's status was important to him. As long as I reacted somehow, there was still a chance to fix everything. After all, the person he was destined to spend the rest of his life with was not Shi Chen at all. "I'll never see Shi Chen again in my life," I said. "So it does not matter whether I like him or not." One word, one sentence, and it cut into his heart like a knife. Even breathing hurt. My eyes were full of endless calm. "And what about me?" Liu Ruan asked at last in the quiet cafe where we had ended up. "You do not want to see me anymore either, do you?" I smiled slightly. "How can that be, teacher?" "I'll always send you greetings. Thank you for everything. In the future there will be greetings, and there will be holidays," I said. "I'll not fall for Teacher Liu's tricks anymore. I've no parents around, because my parents are dead. Without the teaching and guidance of elders, it is possible to stray from the right path one day." "But that is not an excuse for Liu Ruan, because he is already 35, I said with complete calm. No matter how Liu Ruan observed me, no matter what he cared about or liked, I had already thought it through thoroughly and completely. He's a teacher worthy of respect. That conclusion, like a gust of wind, pointed directly at his true fear. The faint hope he had vanished. He finally broke free from himself, overcoming every obstacle, ignoring the world's gaze, facing the impulse in his heart, the thing repressed deep within, a burning desire. At that moment, a storm swept through all 4 corners of him, completely clouding his mind. He held my hand. "We are just strangers. You're not my student anymore. That's what you said. Have you forgotten?" Of course I remember, I thought. I do not regret it. I'm not ashamed. I just feel a little stupid. A little naive. I did not deny it. I only answered in kind. At that time I was already an adult. I understood what love was. "You can say such shameless words now, but teacher, you are 35 this year. Do you not understand?" I asked, at first a little confused, then laughing at myself. I'm telling the truth and he cannot deny it. It was he who pushed me away. He regretted it and wanted me back. But back then he was 10 years older than me and I was not even 18 yet. Unstable love, a broken heart, and now he still thinks I'm unhappy because of Shi Chen. If only I had listened to him seriously before. But now I'm no longer interested in listening. I'm calm and slowly I pull my hand away. I stand up and turn around. "Teacher, I'm going home. You should go too." I just walked out the door. A quiet, sad question followed behind me. "So you're not coming home with me, is that it?" My legs were heavy. My voice was shallow. My speech was slow. "Come back, teacher. Have you forgotten? Today is your wedding day. Your fiancé is still waiting for you. I wish you a happy wedding." With that I pushed the door and step by step I walked out confidently. There was the sound of glass falling in the house behind me, but I did not stop. The wind shook the trees. There were footsteps behind me. Tingchuan, are you really not interested in your teacher at all? I took a large step forward and turned pale. Teacher, you have been very kind to me. I know you tried to guide me onto the right path for my own good. Now I'm on the right path and you are getting married. I've realized that you and I can only be family. Teacher, that is all. Tingchuan, he bit his lip, and his tone was very sincere. Teacher, do not worry. Go back. This time I promise I'll treat you only as a teacher and think of nothing else. After Qiao Tingchuan left, Liu Ruan sat alone in the cafe until the waitress came to collect his things. She said they were going to close, so he paid for everything, stood up, and left in a daze. Street lights were everywhere in the dark night. When he turned her phone on, over 100 unread messages arrived. 99 unread messages. They included Ji Chen, his parents, his friends, his stepmother. You bastard, today is your wedding with Ji Chen, a grand event for the guests, and you still do not dare to show your face. No matter where you are right now, get back here immediately. His father's anger nearly pierced Liu Ruan's ear. He was heartbroken and shaken. I should not have said anything to anger the old man. I cannot go back. I'll not go back. You said you would not go back. You're an adult. You're 35 this year. If you do not get married, you will not have children. You have been stalling all these years. Fine, we did not rush you. Everything is ready now. Do you not understand? Do you deserve Ji Chen? Do you deserve these friends and relatives who have waited here for so long? Do you deserve the Shi family who have worked so hard for so long? Faced with her father's wrath, Liu Ruan found himself at a loss. The phone kept ringing. He did not hang up and did not want to listen any longer. He turned the volume down, stopped the car on the road, and called Qiao Tingchuan's address. Liu Ruan lost his ability to think. The situation was completely new. At that moment he had only one thought. He wanted to see him, because he was nearby. Liu Ruan called me when I was about to go to bed. Tingchuan, I'm at your house. Come out, let us talk. The words were cut off. The phone hung up. I opened the window and stood on the second floor. The man looking up at me from under the street light beneath the tall trees said nothing. He just stared at me. I raised my head and he said, Tingchuan, can you talk to me? Teacher, today is your wedding. You do not belong here. You should return to the wedding. I said this in a very calm tone. But Liu Ruan's heart was full of storm. Liu Ruan's face turned pale. The wedding is off. I looked seriously at the man below. I should have spoken, but I seemed to have seen something. The corners of my mouth turned up. Teacher, your family is looking for you. Go back. Liu Ruan wanted to open his mouth. I closed the window. Ruan, how long are you planning to stay here? The man's voice was sharp. Liu Ruan did not turn around. His brother said, Brother Ruan, you were confused as a child. Now that you have made a name for yourself, you should have known better. He called you teacher. You should have loved him like family, instead of raising ideas beyond your principles. You should go back and get married. Mom and Dad are still waiting for you. Liu Ruan's face paled under Liu Shichen's criticism. Until the very end it remained completely impassive. He lowered his gaze, not daring to meet those bright, sharp eyes, but he still had to answer. He's not my brother. Not my brother. But you saw him grow up. How could it all be so complicated? If his parents knew about your thoughts in heaven, they would have more to worry about. As the thunder rumbled in Liu Ruan's ears, he trembled uncontrollably. His face was filled with indecision and despair. It felt as if something enormous had been crushed into his chest. How could he breathe? He clenched his fist tightly. Pain full of pressure was evident in his voice. I know everything, but I just cannot control it. These years of pain have not stopped, and I now have nothing left to do but live my life. I know it is wrong. That's why I agreed to the marriage, just to test his heart. To keep him by my side as long as he is around, even if I have to be a teacher for the rest of my life. I was ready. But he still left. He abandoned me. He's 25 this year. We were together for 12 years. He has already become a part of my life, a bone in my body. Without him, what is the point of living? He's crying. The self-destructive Liu Shichen had never seen such a fragile Liu Ruan. Deep down, he is a man who can handle anything, no matter what, reliable to young and old alike. But he had forgotten how mature his brother's thinking really was. After all, a man in his 30s has emotions and desires. Liu Shichen had to admit that the current situation was caused by an irreconcilable responsibility. He regretted not having refused to let Liu Ruan raise Qiao Tingchuan alone. He had made a grave mistake. Regret was pointless. Now all he could do was try his best to make things right. Liu Shichen took Liu Ruan by the shoulder and said, "Go home." Liu Ruan returned to the country, and a thunderstorm ruined the engagement. Soon, news of the Si family heir being abandoned by Liu Ruan spread throughout the country. Liu Ruan sat at home and watched his housekeeper pack things away. That evening, Liu Shichen promised to keep her feelings for Qiao Tingchuan secret. He told no one and promised not to disturb Qiao Tingchuan if they ever met. Only a teacher can do this. The rest of his life is so long. He cannot be the same as before. I could see him every day. Now leave him something he will miss. All that is left is this pile of old things. After all the things had been taken out, the housekeeper quietly asked, "Young master, will he be back? Then I'll find someone to arrange all these things in the room." Liu Ruan shook his head. The housekeeper wanted to ask again. He left with the secretary. Silence fell in the room. Liu Ruan bent down and picked up a vase. He wiped the dust with his sleeve. Then he entered the bedroom. He placed the vase on the second shelf of the bookshelf. Except for returning the original items to their original places in the bedroom, he did nothing. At night he looked around the room, trying to remember what was missing. In fact, nothing was wrong. After all, the thing he loved, the true treasure, would never return. Never. Ever since Qiao Tingchuan left to study abroad, Liu Ruan has not recovered either. He has been home for half a month now, but he has been confined to his bedroom, not even leaving it. After the collapsed wedding with Xi Chen, the elder Ms. Liu has been experiencing pain and high blood pressure. Let the secretary take him back to the old house and ask him. I'd rather offend the boss than the elder. The secretary got it into her head and came up with countless excuses. Finally, she managed to anger the old man. He was determined to welcome people back into the house one day. Otherwise, he would simply give up. All she had to do was gather her courage and knock on Liu Ruan's bedroom door. Perhaps he had been resting for a while. He was in a very bad mood. He returned to the old house, having changed his clothes. The conversation lasted 10 hours. When Liu Ruan came out again, it was dark. His face was very calm. The secretary could not tell from his face whether he was in a good mood or not. She could only open the door. He looked up and asked a very strange question. Will those who are no longer here ever meet again? The secretary's head spun. She answered carefully, perhaps you will. Liu Ruan immediately looked down. Her eyes were dark and she feared he would bite his lip. This angered Liu Ruan a little. He was looking for an excuse. The secretary's information turned out to be a golden card, a ticket to his destination written in black and white. Liu Ruan's strength reached its limit and a complex expression crossed his face. What did this mean? Although the secretary did not even dare raise her head, she folded her hands. Tomorrow, the Industrial Design University would hold an opening ceremony for new students. The young man, as a new student, would be speaking. Personally, I think you are the only one of his relatives who should be present at such an event, so she had decided to buy a ticket first. And the second part of the sentence, if you do not have time, I'll return it. She had not even finished. Liu Ruan had already lifted his leg and was driving to the airport. After the school ceremony, I turned around and headed back to the school building. I simply walked up to the entrance to the hall. Looking up, I saw a familiar gaze. I do not know why. When I looked away, I saw Liu Ruan again. I'll always be tormented by a feeling of guilt for the mistake I made and for being caught by my parents. It's exactly the same as when I secretly gave my father's lighter to a classmate. The emotions after being discovered are exactly the same. Is this the dignity of elders? I cannot pretend I do not see him when we meet. I can only lower my head and say, "Hello, Teacher Liu, why are you here?" Looking at my sparkling eyes, Liu Ruan's heart sank a little again, but he restrained himself. He said words of apology, but those apologies came too late. Too late. There was no need for me to be angry. After all, this is 12 years of grace. I cannot blame him. I can only smile and shake my head. It's okay. It's over. I'm fine now. Is it really over? Liu Ruan knows. Even if he clears things up now, this will never go away. The dirty water on me can be washed away, but the damage it caused will be like a crack in crystal that will never heal. The person who once rejoiced at the sight of Qiao Tingchuan was at that moment overwhelmed by guilt and regret. Even the sky that had closed before him became a haunting on his path. He could not enjoy the ceremony. He was just hastily looking for an excuse to leave. I called out to him. He turned around, heartbroken. He saw my calm eyes. I pointed at my book. My tone was sincere and honest. Teacher, that day when you slept in my room, you were very drunk. You came in alone. It was not me who lured you. Liu Ruan did not expect me to remember this. He did not expect me to mention it. I explained it very seriously. What is the truth? No one knows better than her. She wanted to say all of it on purpose, but she could not. She had promised her brother secrecy. The future of the entire Liu family depended on him. He could not let Qiao Tingchuan down. Qiao Tingchuan was still young. An unimaginable future awaited him. He could not selfishly ruin his life, could not let Qiao Tingchuan lose his standing as a designer, and once again find himself caught in the whirlwind of public opinion. Anything could become an excuse against him, and she closed her eyes, holding back tears, and his mouth lifted into an emotional smile. I remember that day. I was drunk. It's not your fault. I'm sorry, I heard him reply. The last heavy weight fell from my heart. A bright smile appeared on my face. I raised my hand and waved to him. Fair winds. Goodbye, Ms. Li Ruan. He nodded softly and said nothing. He watched me enter the library, walking toward my future. As my back disappeared around the corner, a tear trickled down his cheek. It vanished in less than a second. In the darkness, Li Ruan turned and removed the mask. Before boarding the plane, he ordered his secretary to immediately release all the evidence of Ji Chen's copying, and the case was uncovered. Ji Chen found himself in a difficult situation. He was still preparing to contact his connections. The evidence kept coming in. He just needed to see this through. Ji Chen's name was so well known in the fashion world, and the top search query was for the copying case committed against the new designer Qiao Tingchuan. Ji Chen's former fiancée, Li Ruan, the president of the Liu Group, personally exposed Ji Chen for copying and for stealing Qiao Tingchuan's work. The public finally unraveled the mystery of the two rings. It turned out that Ms. Liu had discovered the theft before the breakup. I thought it was the fiancé who had changed his mind. It's wrong to blame Ms. Liu. Qiao is the most pitiful person in the world. So many people criticized him, he'd not even explain. Qiao Tingchuan is my junior colleague. I can confirm that the sketch was drawn by him. Qiao Tingchuan is currently studying in Germany. I wish him all the best. Ji Chen looks at the comments. I feel sorry for Qiao Tingchuan. He sees how quickly the comments are growing. It infuriates him. His face is distorted. Such a huge scandal erupted that the Shi family could not hide it. Ji Chen fell from his designer's chair into the mud overnight. The face of the one who was stepped on is completely distorted. She cannot accept this outcome. She can only vent his anger on the person responsible. Ji Chen completely lost his mind. Ji Chen drove to Li Ruan's house every day and every night until night. Seeing a familiar figure under a street lamp, she threw a dangerous liquid in her face. The scream woke countless people, disturbing their sleep. The incident quickly made headlines. The suspect, Ji Chen, was arrested on the spot. Facing trial and the Liu family's vengeance, the injured Li Ruan was lucky to survive. Half of his face and his left eye were severely damaged. He will only be able to see with one eye in the future. After the accident, the secretary arrived at the hospital just in time. She heard Li Ruan's last words before he lost consciousness. You must hide this. No, you cannot let Tingchuan know. Remember, Qiao's work is very good. The secret of this case was not revealed. Ji Chen went to prison. Nothing about this was reported in the news. Every summer, Qiao Tingchuan carefully writes a letter of blessing and sends a message to Li Ruan. Li Ruan replies with just 3 sentences each time. Remember, take care of yourself. Don't make me worry. New Year is no exception. After several months of treatment, Li Ruan has already gotten used to one eye. He does not need to worry about anyone anymore. After the laser treatment, he went home to wash his face. His forehead was covered in a thin layer of sweat. He looked at the photograph on the table of 23-year-old Li Ruan playing with an umbrella. He looked at their 13-year-old boy with a stray cat in the sunlight. Even after all these years, he still remembered every detail. There was little time left. The housekeeper brought ginseng tea. He was about to drink it. The phone rang. At 1 o'clock, he glanced at the screen. He did not know where this blessing had come from. Finally, the words rang out. Teacher Liu, Happy New Year. Finally, a smile appeared on Li Ruan's face. His smiling reply remained the same. Take care. Don't make me worry. The housekeeper next to him looked a little sad and asked a few more questions. Sir, I've not seen the young master in so long. Why do you not ask him to come back and visit? Li Ruan looked at her and said nothing. The housekeeper sighed and silence fell over the room once more. Why do you not see her anymore? Because she is disabled and injured. And how come these people who are so far away know he has been worrying about it for days? He stands on the balcony, his face touching the flagpole, looking at the dazzling fireworks display outside. The effect on her eyes is gradually fading. Despite the Liu family's wealth, medical treatment still cannot restore the skin, and he remains disabled. The fireworks are cold, and Li Ruan's tears quietly flow down her cheek. The street lights were shining brightly, and joyful laughter could be heard from afar. She closed her eyes.